Hi, this is Purav Gandhi. Welcome to the Future of Health series by Healthark Insights. In this video, we'll talk about virtual trials. What are virtual trials? Or for that matter, decentralized trials or digital trials? These are clinical trials where a physical location or a site is not a barrier to where the information can be collected from a patient. And as a result, what can be achieved through these trials is significantly more as opposed to the standardized clinical trials which we have all been accustomed to. Over a period of time, clinical trials have become more progressive in nature and more information has been collected within outside the strict confines of hospital or the outside the strict confines of where they meet the physician. There are more touch points that have been created, but now virtual trials break all those barriers in terms of what information can be collected. What are the advantages? Why virtual trials? So let's look at it from a patient standpoint first. Over a period of time, less and less patients have been participating within clinical trials because of the inconvenience associated with a trial, because they have to go and visit the physician or the trial center on a regular basis. There could be inconvenience around distance, just the overall discomfort of going and visiting a medical practitioner or a hospital. Could be various other factors associated with a clinical trial. Now all this inconvenience goes away because a lot of things are virtual. This information is collected where either a nurse visits a patient at his or her place, or some of this information can be just entered within an application, and hence it's much easier for the patient to participate in a clinical trial. Let's look at it from a sponsor standpoint. There are 4 key advantages of running a virtual trial. The first one is it accelerates the trial. The recruitment becomes much faster. Patients participate in the trials in a much faster way. The number of sites that you can have are much larger, and hence you meet your recruitment targets very quickly. The second advantage is the amount of information that can be collected. If everything has to be a physical touch point within a hospital, that means less information can be collected from a patient. However, by collecting information virtually, sometimes you can even collect information from the patient every day, and hence the degree of information you have is way more robust to make any decision within a trial. Third, the kind of inputs that you can collect. Now you can deploy sensors, now you can deploy various patient information forms which can be instituted multiple times, which were not possible historically. And then lastly, the number of sites or the geographical diversity that a virtual trial can provide cannot be provided by a traditional clinical trial. Now the question is, can virtual trials be run for every disease area or for every scenario? Well, the answer is it depends. It's not a clear yes, not a clear no. What are the key considerations that go into deciding whether a trial can be run virtually or not? As of now, there are 3 broad parameters based on which one could make this decision. The first is overall the sample size required versus the prevalence of the disease. As this ratio starts becoming more difficult in terms of recruitment, there is benefit to going virtual and hence expanding the net from where the patients could be enrolled within a trial. The second is the degree of physical movement that the patient can make within that disease area. If the patient cannot move that easily, if the patient finds it hard to visit the doctor or visit the hospital for multiple touch points, there is a case to be made for a virtual trial. And the answer could be hybrid. It need not be that the entire trial is virtual, but you reduce the number of touch points and shift many of the touch points to virtual. And then the third, most important one is, what is the type of data that you are trying to collect for this particular trial? If that requires something where there is a lot of radiology information, if there has to be an MRI done on a regular basis, then virtual trials are hard. You have to get the patient on site. But if the kind of information is regular blood sugar test or any other biochemistry parameters, these can be collected at patient's home, and hence the trial could be made way more virtual. In many occasions, the answer would be hybrid. Part of it would be virtual, part of it would be physical on site. But using these 3 parameters, you could decide that can the trial be decentralized or virtual in nature. Now, what are the limitations of virtual trials? There are several limitations. There are limited precedences of virtual trials being organized. As a result, there are very few standards or protocols set on how virtual trials could be run. Hence, there is ambiguity in terms of trial design. Second, there is still a hesitation, there is still lack of buy-in when it comes to upper management or key decision makers in terms of running trials virtually, because this is not what everyone has been accustomed to for years. There could be also challenges around data quality and governance, because now you are moving away from hospital, you are moving away from a regulated environment, and as a result of that, there could be a garbage in, garbage out situation where the information entered by the patient or the relative of a patient is not so accurate. So still work needs to be done on this. And lastly, there could be concerns around data security, audit trails, etc., which are generally a key within clinical trials when you are trying to go for a regulatory submission. However, none of these challenges are not solvable. As we work more on this, as we gather more experience, as we experiment more, all this will be solved in due course of time, and we'll see more and more virtual or decentralized trials. Thank you for listening to this discussion on virtual trials. Within clinical trials, one another interesting trend has been how blockchain as a technology has started playing a huge role within clinical trials. So our next topic will be blockchain in healthcare. Stay tuned.